Welcome to Brazen Education with Educator Barnes, a podcast with a focus on speaking your truth, being transparent to help others, and having no shame about it. Because we can't move forward until the truth is known. Hey, it's Educator Barnes here, and on this episode, we're going to talk about working remotely during COVID-19. If you're an educator like me, or you may not be an educator, you may have been at home for the last few days because of the coronavirus pandemic. And I'm going to start this podcast by saying, please, please, please take the recommendation of our public health officials seriously. When they say stay home, stay home. When they say don't leave your house except to go get groceries or except to go to work, if you're still one of those people that have to go to work, then follow that. Because maybe you're healthy. Maybe you don't have a pre-existing condition, but you could be carrying it to other people who will not be able to survive this virus. And if you don't know how to wash your hands properly, there are tons of videos online and tons of songs that you can sing. And special shout out to our kindergarten teachers, because the people who taught us how to wash our hands, outside of our moms and dads or guardians, are kindergarten teachers. And I bet a lot of them are getting a lot of giggles and chuckles, all these songs that we've been coming up with. And they like, what about the song I taught you? How you forget what I taught you? They're probably thinking that right now. And kindergarten teachers are just special people anyway. I love them because they do a job that, honestly, that's not my, how can I say this? I love the little people, but I prefer to love them at a distance, if you know what I'm saying. But nonetheless, let's get into it. I have 7 areas I'm going to cover today about working remotely. And this is based on my 1 week of working remotely and based on what I've observed from my husband. So my husband is a senior data analyst / team lead for the state of Indiana. And the nature of his job is he can work at work or he can work at home. So for him, this isn't a vacation. I know for some people, working at home means there is a little bit of a vacation because you literally can't do all the things you did at your job. My husband, as long as he has internet access, he can full blown do his job regardless of where we are at. And sometimes I get frustrated, but I also count my blessing because my husband has a good job. I mean, we'll be on vacation and he will be full blown working sometimes because that just happens. He is the team lead, which means he is the backup to anybody that's on call. So it's kind of like he's on call all the time. So if the on call person can't figure it out, he gets called regardless of what he's doing. And his boss does do a good job of saying, like, look, Jermaine's on vacation. Let's try to handle this, guys. Let's try to not reach out to him unless you have to. And I honestly can't think of a vacation that he hasn't been reached out to, but it is what it is. His job pays the bills and I'm happy. But because I'm married to a person who does this, his boss, I would say about a year ago, kind of cracked down on him, like insisting that he take some time to work at home. My husband does not like to work at home, and he's been kind of feeling a little down that he has to work at home. He works downtown in Indy, and he loves working downtown in Indy. He gets out, he walks the canal, he walks around the city. He loves to do that every single day. And granted, with social distancing, you still can get out and walk, but it's not, he's like, it's just not the same. It's not the same. The canal's not in our neighborhood. Like, I get what he's saying. Like, the same scenery. And it's just not even just about being able to get out and walk. Because my husband, he exercises, he does all those things. But there's like a little bit of a social aspect to it. Even if he doesn't know the people just walking on the canal, walking downtown. Hey, how you doing? That kind of thing, So this is where my recommendations come from. A bit of what I've observed, because sometimes he works remotely in the summertime when I am at home. So I see him do this, and I've seen what goes well and I've seen what doesn't go well. And he would attest to this too. The first thing I'm going to start off with, number 1, is you got to have a schedule. I know that some of us have been trying to figure out schedule, and then some of us, let's keep it real. When they said you didn't have to go to work the next day, you slept in, you did enough to get by, and you relaxed. You know what? And there's no judgment here. I don't think that's bad. because especially if you're an educator, our jobs are demanding. So maybe you just needed that first day to crash, and just like a reality, like for me, I was just like, I was talking to my aunt on the phone, and I said, I can't believe in my lifetime that this has happened. You know, when you think about some of the things that will happen in your life, I just never saw a point in time where, you know, the mayor, the governor, there's guidance from the president, like stay at your house, don't be in groups of more than 10. Like what is going on? Like, this is surreal. So you took a day to process, but you need to have a schedule, and this schedule should address what you're going to do, what your children are going to do if you have children, and what your spouse is going to do. And I wrote an article about working remotely at home for Indy K-12 and, you know, balancing your children's schedule. And the schedule I even created for myself in that article that I said I was going to do on Monday failed. And I will be the first to admit that I failed. Like, it did not work. What I didn't consider in my schedule was my husband. So I wrote a fancy schedule for how my kids and I were going to interact. I didn't consider my husband. I didn't consider the fact that we moved into a different house. Like our first house that we lived in for 12 years, it was a little, it wasn't open concept. That's the word I'm looking for. So it was closed off, so you can kind of be in your own individual area. Our new house isn't completely open concept, but there is some openness to it. What I didn't think about is the fact that my husband does conference calls all the time. I had to now start getting on and getting in Google Hangout and Zoom and having these meetings. And then my kids are on their laptop. Like, my one son talks to his teacher via Zoom. And so all three of us was in this big space. And granted, there was like some walls, but there's like wasn't a door. It was just too noisy. And I know I thought I was far away, but I could tell, like, my son was talking to his teacher, and when she could hear me talking, which I didn't realize, she actually got off the Zoom video with my kid because she could hear the meeting I was having with the teachers, the meeting I was leading. So you have to figure out when is everyone to do things. So I had to talk to my husband later in the week. I said, hey, I know, like, and then the other thing is tricky because, like, I'll get a phone call like, hey, Shantae, can I get you on the phone at this time? So some things pop up during the day. I had to say, hey, babe, like, when are you going to do your, like, meetings? Like, when are those happening? So we got better by the end of the week where he does a lot of his stuff in the morning. And that's just like kind of how, because his meetings at his job, there are things if he was at work that he would go do in person, right? But if he's not at work in person, let's say he's working remotely and there's a meeting he's supposed to be at in person, he would just conference call in, and they use Microsoft Teams. They use that platform. So there are different ways that they can connect. So I decided to have my meetings in the afternoon so we weren't both talking at the same time. So that kind of helped. And then we also have to think about the fact if we are both talking at the same time, leading meetings or participating in conference calls, what the hell are our kids doing? Exactly. I mean, I was straight in the middle of leading a team meeting, and my son was trying to talk to his teacher, but the technology wasn't connecting or working on her end. And so my son is like, I'm on in front of my laptop. I'm leading this meeting. I'm going over directives that my principal gave us, and she asked all the supervisor of each of the different groups of teachers to kind of just go over her guidelines and then answer any questions, right? In the middle of this, my son comes up on the side of me. It's like, Mom, I'm like, oh my. And granted, my whole composure to like going through this list, and I just turned like, what are you doing? Like, and then I'm trying to help him, and then I'm trying to turn back to my laptop and keep going. And then he's still over here in my side view, like, got his hands up. So I was just like, okay, hold up, just hold up. So I'm like pausing, and then I forgot, because other thing, if you are on video or conferencing in, put the mute button on so people don't hear the heck's going on in your background. Then I realized people can hear my frustration. I'm like, okay, I come back onto the screen to mute myself, and then I go and like try to get my kids set up, and then I come back. And then I'm talking, and he's now over there at the dining room table when I wasn't even in the dining room. I'm in the other room. So like I said, kind of open concept so I can see him. So I'm like waving my hand, like putting my hand up, like stop, just hold on. So that didn't work, right? Because I didn't consider the fact that I knew I was going to have these meetings, right? I knew he had to get on with his teacher because she said 3 o'clock. I'm like, he'll start his video. She will lead whatever she needs to lead. I don't have to be involved because my kid knows how to get into Canvas and click all these links. He knows how to do the flip grid. He doesn't need me. I didn't think about the fact if he had technical difficulties, he would need me. So now thinking about next week, when she sends out her time about when she's going to meet, I want to make sure I'm not doing something that requires me to talk to anybody so I can be over there to help. But this is like all the stuff I'm figuring out. So, and then I sat down with my kids at the kitchen table and we made a schedule, considering my husband, considering me, considering what I wanted them to do. And this week is their week before spring break. Next week is spring break. Now, they don't know this, and they don't listen to this podcast, but they're going to be following that same schedule that next week on spring break, because if not, they're going to be off the chain. And the week after that, that's when their school district is going to go to like a full learning, and they're going to have it's going to be a little bit more structure. So when we get that schedule for the school, we will adapt to that. I'm more adaptable than my husband because my husband has meetings and things that were scheduled way before this happened that he has to stick to, but I can work around his schedule. So regardless, have a schedule, and part of that schedule should be when you're going to eat, when you're going to take a shower. And I've been seeing people on social media talking about, at this time you should change out of your daytime pajamas to your nighttime pajamas. Now, I do, like the first day, I did let my kids be in their pajamas all day. They got these little Minecraft onesies that they absolutely love. So I'm like, whatever. They got Minecraft onesie and a NASA astronaut suit onesie, which I think is awesome. But anyway, and then after I'm like, no, we can't just be lounging around our pajamas all day, because when I was asking them to do something, they just kind of had a little stink attitude. So I was like, nope. We're going to get up and get dressed and get formal just like we get them to go to school, right? And then if you just stay in the whole same pajamas every single day, that's going to get nasty, right? So don't do that. But they need to get their clothes on. And then part of your schedule, especially if your kids, should be getting outside. And I'm not the type of person that's going to go outside in my pajamas. I may go outside to push my trash out in my pajama pants, maybe. Or maybe do something in my backyard with the gate closed, but I'm not going to be out on Front Street walking in the neighborhood in my pajamas. I know some of y'all do that. That's just not me. And therefore, by default, that's not going to be my children. But get up and get dressed. Like shower, brush your teeth, do your hair, like do all the things. Because I didn't realize it because I wasn't really paying attention. And my son's hair is curly. But by the second day, I was like, look, did you comb your hair today? Well, I didn't know we had to comb our hair. I mean, we got home. Look, if you, my sons now I have identical twins, if you don't know that by now. They have two different styles of haircuts now because they want to look, one wants to look different. The other one does not like. So my one son, he got his hair cut down to fade. My other son kind of has a little like afro, and then he got the side faded down. My son that has the hair that's longer, he wants his brother to grow his hair out. His brother does not. His brother hates combing his hair. He just wants to brush his hair. He said, if my hair gets too long to brush, it needs to be cut. My other son has to pick his hair out every morning. And so I said to him, because we actually cut his hair. We faded it all the way down a few months back, and he was pissed. And I'm like, your hair is literally in knots. And I'm not saying like it would just curl up too tight. No, it was in knots. And I couldn't get all the knots out because he wasn't, and picking his hair. Now, look, I go to work before they have to get ready for school. So that's between them and my husband. But after his hair got cut down, my husband told him, he's like, man, I'm not going to sit here and be picking out your hair every morning. You about to be 9. So this was before his 9th birthday last month. He said, you about to be 9. If you're going to grow out your hair, you're going to pick out your own hair, and you're going to learn how to do it. So my husband showed him how to pull the product, because his hair is similar to my husband's hair. My husband's hair is not as long. So my husband showed him his routine. He said, if this is how you want your hair, you're going to take care of it. If you don't, we will cut it again. And the threat of cutting his hair has made this child pick out his hair, and it actually looks pretty good. It almost looks like my husband did. Apparently, when I pick out his hair, it doesn't look right. Nobody seems to like it, so I just stay out of it. But now he can do it himself, so I don't need to be in it. But I'm like, you have to comb your hair because your hair going to get matted, and that's not going to work, right? So have a schedule, stick to the schedule, and adapt the schedule as necessary. Because schools are adapting their plans, so you will have to adapt your plans. Second, be responsive to email and phone calls. Now, we all know there's those people at work who don't seem to respond to emails. Parents call them, they don't answer, they don't call back. They just seem to be out the loop. I can think of a special area teacher right now in my son's school that I have contacted and see they don't contact me back. And I actually had school not closed. I was about to request a meeting with her and meet with her in person, because like what you're not about to do is ignore my emails. What you're not about to do is write my kid up and then not even tell me about it. That don't fly. And it was always something real petty on top of that. So I sent her an email and I met with this individual last school year, and I sent her an email to say, hey, like, as I stated to you in person last school year, if you have an issue with my child, you need to call me. You need to email me. You need to let me know. And I don't know about y'all, but if you write referrals at any school, you're supposed to be contacting the parents. Because the schools I worked in, if you did that crap, the referral got kicked back. They're like, we're not even going to process the referral because you didn't do your part by notifying the parent. So if school does come back in session before the school year is over, which honestly, I'm just going to throw out here, I doubt it, but it could be possible. And if my kids go back when they're supposed to go back, they will only have 14 days left of school because their school gets out at the end of May. I'm still thinking about having that meeting because I need her to know, like, your behavior is not acceptable and you're a special ed teacher, which that means I got to deal with you next school year if you come back. And I need to make it abundantly clear, like, this is not going to fly. And you may think it's going to fly, but it's not. But you need to be responsive, because now our main form of communication is going to be email. It's going to be phone. It may be Google Hangout. If you're supposed to be on Google Hangout at 3 p.m., make sure you're on there at 3 p.m. Make sure that as much as possible, you have no distraction. Now, like I said, my own kid interrupted me. Like I said, as much as possible. But you just need to be responsive and you need to pay attention. And there's going to be action items. We're no longer going to have staff meeting. I saw a tweet about a week or so ago and I retweeted it. And somebody said, we're about to find out which meetings could have been an email. But here's the thing I want to point out on top of that. The reason why some meetings aren't emails is because some of y'all don't respond to nothing unless the principal is looking you in your face. And that's why it can't be in the email, because y'all don't read the daggone emails and respond and do what the email says. So now more than ever, you need to open up the email and do what it says. Because if someone's sending you an email, it's not going to be like, hey, how are you doing? There's probably going to be some action items. And that is why my principal sent an email about what our next steps was. Her next thing was, hey, I want supervisors, and I'm one of those people. I want you guys to have a meeting with your team to go over my email. So we're still having staff meetings because even she knows, like, if I just send this email, either A, there may be some confusion, because when things are written, sometimes you need some clarification, and you can get that back and forth immediate clarification when you're in person at a staff meeting and you can't get an email. And to make sure people understand what they're going to do, and then emphasize when it was due. Because when I was leading, because we did 4, my counterpart and I, so we both supervised all the middle school teachers. So I was on all 4 of them. She led the first 2 and I led the last 2. And one of the teachers was like, oh, yeah, we had that done by Friday. Now, the principal got it in bold and it highlighted everything is due on Thursday. So this is why we having this Google Hangout meeting. I said, no. Everything's due end of day on Thursday. And also, this kind of goes with the schedule. People know that I wrote about this, I do not have my work email logged in on my phone, right? So I do not get notifications for email. And I said, I'm still keeping those same hours. Like I told my team, I said my work hours were 7:30 to 4:30, Monday through Thursday. And on Friday is 7:30 to 4. I said, I'm still keeping those hours. Now, typically what I did when we were going to work, I would respond to emails during that time, right? And then I would come home, I would be wife, I would be mom, and then I would take one part of my day where I would log into my computer and respond to anything I need responded to. I'm the queen of scheduling do a schedule send email, which you can do in Gmail, which my school used. So, because some people do have their email on their phone, and if you email, no matter what time it is, they're gonna knee-jerk react and email you right back. So my team, I got my team trained. They already know. You may send something to me, I will read it and I will schedule send the response to come to you at I schedule send them typically either 7, 7:30 or 8, right? Because at 8, the teachers have advisory so they can look at an advisory, right? But they also know if you email me during the day, I expect you to be teaching. So I'm going to schedule send my response for the end of the day. Now that we're working remotely is a little different because you're not right now our school is not teaching like live. So I am responding during the day, but I'm still setting those boundaries for the email responses. I'm still responsive, but they know how I'm going to be responsive. So if that's you and you have other obligations, maybe you have a kid and you're helping them do their stuff, or your kid is young. Let's say you have a first grader who may not know how to get on a computer like my third grade sons, and you have to set this stuff up or be there to troubleshoot, then you need to let people know, my son's school from 9 to 11, they're doing online live classes, because I know some people are doing that now. Kudos to you. I need to be able to troubleshoot, so during that time I may not be as responsive to emails. Just whatever it is, just let people know, and then make sure you actually respond. The third thing, speaking of being online, is that yes, you can say we're in a bit of a crisis. Yes, this is uncharted waters, but there are still some things that haven't changed. Copyright laws haven't changed. FERPA responsibilities haven't changed. HIPAA rights have not changed. So we have to be very careful about what we are sharing. HIPAA is like health information. You can't just be putting out there on blast like, oh yeah, this student has COVID-19 and put it in a group chat or sit. No. First off, if you're a teacher, it's not your responsibility to be sharing that with the masses. That should go up to your supervisor, and they will follow the protocols that are in place. And they are following protocols that are given to them by, state health officials. So don't put yourself in that situation. Copyright. When this stuff started happening in other places before I got to Indiana, I posted, a lot of you guys know I kind of have an avatar, I guess if you say, of myself. That has someone create for me, and sometimes I put little quotes, and one of the quotes I put up there with my avatar was just saying that you can't just copy something, PDF it, and post on your site. That's violation of copyright law. We still have to be mindful. Sometimes educators get confused and think, oh, because I'm an educator, I have free use and all these free rights. Yeah, we have some leeway, but we still can't break the law. Just because a website is offering something for free, you can't print it off and then scan it back in and put it on your website. Because first of all, you're taking away business even if it's for free. And some people don't understand this. Some publications that are getting funded are based on how many people, the traffic that is coming to their website. So even if they're offering it for free, you put it on your website, you're taking away from that. And if they don't hit where their metrics are, it could mess with their funding. So that was one of the pushback. Well, if they're offering for free, then it's free. I can do whatever you want. No, you can't. Because you notice on a lot of those free websites, at the bottom of the page, it says some stuff like copyrighted, whatever year, all rights reserved. That means you can't go do that. Okay. And then with, publishers saying, yes, because another thing, like people reading books online, or scanning in whole books and publishing it somewhere. If you are offering a publisher book for free, then why would somebody go buy it? So you're taking money out of the publisher's pocket, you're taking money out of the author's pocket. But publishers, they are not insensitive. Yeah, they want to make $1, but they also want to help. And so many of publishers are temporarily bending the rules. But they have some guidelines. If you, and I tweeted this morning, and I'm publishing this episode of the same day I made this tweet, so you should be able to find it easily if you follow me on Twitter at Educator Barnes. From the School Library Journal, they have a page that shows all the publishers that are allowing schools and parents and teachers to record and read their books. But they have guidelines, and each publisher has their own guidelines. Some of them say you have to say you have permission by this company. Some of them say, and on top of this, you need to fill out a form. Tell me your name. Tell me your school. Where do you post it? Some of them say you have to have it in a private YouTube account. Some of them say you have to put it online on a platform that only can be accessed by password. Some say after 24 hours, the video has to come off of your website. So if you want to read things online, that's cool. But make sure you're being a law-abiding citizen, because educators, we're role models. And we do not need to be out here being poor role models and saying, well, because, this bad stuff is happening right now with this COVID and I can't go out and work, I'm just going to do whatever. No. And it was interesting. There were some people straight up pissed off at me because I started bringing this up. But it is what it is. I don't worry about that because I wasn't saying anything that was wrong. It's just, I tweeted another tweet after some people got pissed off, and I said, are we going to be leaders or are we going to be lazy? Because it's lazy just to take the easy way out. Being a leader and showing what needs to be done, even if it takes some extra work, is following the laws and following the guidelines. Because most schools at some point in time, in the curriculum, especially if you have a librarian, you're talking about copyright, you're talking about plagiarism, you're talking about citing sources, you're understanding what fair use is, and the public domain. So if you want an easy win, some people, so January 1st is not only known as New Year's Day, but some people call it Public Domain Day because that's the day works enter the public domain. So on January 1st, 2020, anything that was written in 1924 or before is now in the public domain. And I can give you some extra history. 2019, January 1st, 2019 was a big deal because that was the first time any new things entered the public domain for 20 years. And it all had to do with Sonny Bono. Yes, that, like Sonny and Cher, that dude. And Walt Disney. Because in 1998, a 20-year extension was added to copyright law because Walt Disney had some stuff that was about to be copyright free. So, you got some influence, you can influence these laws, so Congress passes laws to extend it. So essentially what you had happened now it's 21 years back, you had all the stuff from 1922 that was released, and then this law was passed in 1998, and so the stuff from 1923 wasn't released until January 1st, 2019. So now that we're past, now that the 20-year extension is in effect, as of 2019, now each year things will be added. So January 1st, 2021, anything that was written in 1924 will now be in the public domain. So you're probably saying to yourself, like, how do I find this stuff, right? Lit2Go, and that's LIT number 2. Go. If you Google that, there's a website and they have tons of literature that you can read. Not only do they have it, you can download the PDF. Some of the stories have activities already uploaded, and there's audio that you can listen to. And this research has been published on my website for years because I use it in the classroom. Now, yes, was a culturally responsive educator, and I brought a lot of stuff. I actually would post this sign on my classroom door to say, bring your literature book. And my principal always interpreted it as, even when she's like, I just like how you remind kids to bring their books. She didn't understand that I wasn't reminding kids to bring their books. I was telling them to bring their books because I hardly ever used the textbook. And so occasionally when there was a story in the textbook I wanted to read, I was telling them we're using our textbooks this day, right? It wasn't like me being friendly. It was like, hey, we're actually going to use that book. Well, on top of that, I also use Lit2Go because even though I want to use all this other stuff, I also need to make sure that my students can read the type of literature that's going to be on standardized tests. And some of the stuff that's on this site is written in the way that things are written on standardized testing. So we did a mix of both. One of the stories that's on there is one of the stories I love. It's A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. And I've seen people been putting up Christmas lights in solidarity to kind of have something positive out there. I heard that Hallmark's showing some of their Christmas movies. So if you want a Christmas thing to listen to, you can go there and download it for free. Gutenberg is another place you can find it. And then there's the archives through the Library of Congress, where you can search for stuff, and there you can search for anything. That could be music, it could be video, it could be artwork that is free. So you have options. Just know what your options are. Make sure you're doing things to begin in the right way, because these companies do come and sue. I participated in a series last year where different education writers wrote about like copyright and stuff like this. And one of the articles I wrote was called "When Beg, Borrow, and Steal Becomes a Crime." Because they do sue. And there was, I believe it was Texas, they had to pay millions of dollars violating copyright. So it's not worth it. Number 4, keep high expectations. In Indiana, in addition to our governor extending our closing to May 1st, it was also said that all standardized testing for will be postponed, and now we're not doing it, right? Because from the United States Department of Education, we get a waiver. And so a lot of educators are breathe a sigh of relief, which I get, because second semester, you almost feel like it's this test prep season, right? Regardless of if you're trying to be culturally responsive and trying to do some other thing, you still feel the pressure of getting your kids to pass the test. But what I'm a little worried about is some people are like, well, I can just do anything. Real talk, yeah, you could. Yeah, you could. But at the end of the day, at some point in time, we are going to go back to school. And some students will have some gaps. I'm going to say some students because, there are some people that get into this whole doom and gloom. And some students are not going to have huge gaps depending on the access they have at home and depending on what their schools are able to provide, right? No, it's not the same as a teacher being there, right? But we have to think about there's going to be some deficits, or we have kids at home. Like I saw someone say, well, how are they going to get this stuff online and read it if they couldn't read at school? And you was helping them read at school. This is true. If we lower our expectations and we lower our standards because we're at home and it's virtual and we're just slapping stuff on websites, that's not going to work. I have taught a couple college courses online. And I'm going to tell you, and I think any professor will tell you, it is easier to teach face-to-face than to teach online. There's some convenience of not having to go down to campus each day, but it is hard as heck because you have to be responsive, right? And it's not just putting articles online and going and have a discussion. It's putting articles online, having a discussion. You actively participate in the discussion as a teacher. You moderate, you respond, because what happens if you just let people discuss and you don't moderate like you would do in a regular classroom, then you're going to have some faulty ideas and some faulty thinking. Yes, I'm all for people sharing whatever ideas they have, but if you're teaching a concept, when it comes to concepts, like there's only one answer you should be getting when you multiply 3 times 3. And somebody out there saying it's 12 and you're not in the discussion, kind of like saying, hey, hold up, Johnny, that is not the answer. Let me work this out. Then you're going to have a problem, right? The other part, it should be interactive, especially with platforms like Zoom. I'm taking an online class myself, to be completely honest. And I'm also designing an online class I want to teach this May for a university. And what my professors, this one class I'm taking right now has 2 professors. When we do our Zoom every Monday, she shows her screen. She's doing things there. She puts in videos for us to watch. She does this thing where she sends us each into small groups. So you just randomly group with a couple other people. And so it's pretty interactive. The other thing I'm going to acknowledge here is it takes some training. We're saying, hey, go e-learn, go distant learn, and teachers don't have training. You have to have training to know how to do this stuff. Because a couple weeks ago, when we did another small group, my professor said, okay, the last question is not about the content. How do you feel about what I'm doing? And I gave her good feedback because I've had another online class, right? It was just really here's the assignments, do it. It wasn't very interactive. These professors are interactive. They're talking to us. We're having activities. There's videos that we're watching and we come back and discuss them. We're sitting there she'll say, okay, we're going to take 5 minutes. We're going to do this quick right here. And then I'm going to put you in groups. We're actually doing stuff in the class. And my classmates for this particular class I'm taking, they're around the world. There's a couple people that's in Japan. One lady's in Mexico. I've got a classmate in Florida. Have another person that's up on, where is she at? I want to say Massachusetts. It's probably wrong, but she's up there in that region, right? And it brings us all together, and I'm just learning so many different new perspectives from my classmates. But try your best to keep your expectations high and to keep the quality high. 5, get ahead. If you're like me, I can't do everything for my job while I'm at home. There's just some things that you would need to really be at school to do. So in those moments of quote unquote free time, after I spend time with my children, because that's also important to me, get this quality time in, I'm trying to get ahead of stuff. So I worked on the school schedule for next school year, working on supply lists for next school year. So if there's anything that you can get ahead of, or that one lesson I did earlier in the year, I know that one we teach next year because I already got my grade load for next school year. That lesson sucked. I can use this time to fix this lesson and make it better. So use this time to get ahead, go back and fix some stuff, maybe get some planning out for next school year when you have some extra time. Number 6 is balance. Balance everything, because some people are getting overwhelmed. There's all these different phases. There's people that are really happy. There's people overwhelmed. There's people really sad because we're missing our students. But you have to have a balance. You have to have a balance between working and taking a break and interacting with other humans. And some teachers, they live by themselves. So that may be look, I'm going to have to get on and talk to my colleagues for like at least once a day on the phone. I need to hear another human being. Or maybe that is knocking on your neighbor's door, make sure they're okay. Like when we moved, we only moved 4 streets over from our previous house. But the street that we moved to, like the bus stop is our door. That's because there's no children close enough for my sons to walk to the next bus stop. So all my neighbors are my parents' age. So I'm in a different type of like neighborhood right now, which that'll change over time as people get older and pass away. Because that was actually what was happening. So 4 streets over in our other house, when we left, 3 people had passed away on our street. And newer families like around our age was moving in. So that'll eventually happen where we are. And not that I'm wishing that on anybody. And I really wish that no one passed away for COVID-19, because the first person in Indiana that died of COVID-19, they did a write-up on this lady in the Indianapolis Star. And it just made me sad, to be completely honest, because it talked about all this stuff this lady did. And it also just talked about how quickly her situation is deteriorated. And yeah. So I don't wish that on anyone. So you have to have balance between working and keeping your sanity. Right now, one of the things I'm doing in my free time is braiding my hair myself. Now, I can't braid. The only thing I'm capable of doing is doing those little single braids, right? But I used to do that. I used to do single braids and like single twist my hair all the time. I'm anti-weave. I'm not against people wearing weave. You do you. I will do me. I've only had weave in my hair twice. One time in college when I was playing a prostitute in a church play. Yeah, don't ask. I was probably the least convincing prostitute ever on the face of the earth. And then the second time I had weave in my hair was when I was on bed rest for 4 months. I was on bed rest for 2 months at home during my twin pregnancy. And then on December 26, 2010, I entered the hospital until my boys were born 2 months later. And what was happening was my hair was kind of wearing down because I was laying back. So it was recommended that I get a protective style and get hair added to my hair to protect my actual hair. Oh, to be pregnant with twins and been on bed rest and have someone come and braid my hair. If you know what my hair looks like, I did cut my hair recently and my husband's opinion is grown back. My hair is like, whoa, it's poofy and it's big. I'm in my late 30s now, man, late, I guess 36 is 36, late 30s. I don't know, but my hair is starting to thin and I'm not surprised by this. The women, my mom, her sisters, that's what's happened. So I knew that was something that probably happened to me. But even with that, my hair is thick. And so that's the reason I'm actually anti adding hair to my hair, because it would take forever, because braiding just my actual hair takes forever. So in my free time, I'm just adding a few braids in my hair a day, and I'm starting from the front back. So the rest of my hair is just in the big poof bun, and then I'm pulling the braids back until I get the whole hair done. And after I get it done, I think I'm going to do some little rollers and make it all cute. And yeah, I know I'm in the house, but look, my husband's still in here, so look, I mean, I'm not going to just try to be looking, because people are talking about it's about to get ugly. Y'all might about to get ugly. I'm not about to get ugly, okay? Look, I've been a tomboy for most of my life, but I do keep myself nice. Like, you know, keep my fingernails. I like to keep those nice. I don't do fake nails either. I'm kind of anti-fake stuff if you haven't figured that out. I don't do fake eyelashes or none of that stuff. But I can look cute. Like my husband, he dressed up yesterday and he was looking good. Like, and I appreciated that, okay? And the last thing, just give yourself grace. Look, we're in uncharted waters and we're trying to tackle things that we've never done before, right? And even if you have the luxury of my husband having to work at home, that's not actually something he enjoys. To quote him exactly, he says, it's depressing being here all day. And he was like, no offense. And I knew because I mean, we've been together for a minute, right? We've been married 13 years, but we've been together 2 years before that. So 15 years, right? So I knew it wasn't like he was tired of me. He just wanted to get out. My husband, he does a lot of stuff with his friend. He does stuff independently of me. And it was his good friend's birthday this weekend. And, you know, we all on lockdown, right? So, like, he would have been probably out with him doing some stuff. Instead, you know, we at home, you know. Now, I did hear there was like a whole DJ party on Instagram. So, you know, you can still kind of have fun that way. But it's still not the same, right? But if things like for me, I had this whole fancy schedule that failed. Like, instead of me sitting here like, man, I'm a failure, this sucks, I gave myself some grace. And then I'm finding myself an outlet. I've been doing what I call the Coronavirus Chronicles. And I decided only to do it Monday through Friday on my blog. And it's just literally me saying what happened. And if you've been reading that, you know this week I've yelled at my kids. And most of my students will tell you that I'm not a yeller unless there's a fight. If there's a fight, I will elevate my voice to say, stop fighting. But other than that, I'm just not that type of teacher. They will tell you I'm one of those teachers that like to drop my voice down to that whisper, that like, oh, you thought you were about to come here and play that. Okay. So let me tell you what we're not going to do. And kids said, when Mrs. Barnes is not using her regular voice, and she drops that voice, it's curtains. That was one of my students used to say. But I just had to give myself some grace. And I've literally changed the schedule each week, every single day to make it, I think Friday was the best day. I was like, hey, this kind of worked. My boys kind of knew what to do. And I also had to give up some control. Like, I have to have my kids do some stuff independently without me over their shoulders because I'm not going to be able to work. And then I had that conversation with my son who I gave him some things to do independently, and he got into his bed to take a nap. And I know you're probably like, well, let the boy sleep. But what I asked him to do independently was fold up his clothes and put them away. And instead, he wanted to go take a nap. But before I asked him to fold and put the clothes away, he was just jumping around, running around the house, which is why I told him to go put his clothes away so he could use that energy in a productive manner. But instead, he going to hop into the bed. So I just explained to him, like when I give him tasks to do independently, whether that's getting on Khan Academy and working through some lessons, or whether it's folding up his clothes, that my expectation that you do what I say and you do it the first time you're asked. Because as my boys, one of the first things I taught them is that they're going to be first-time listeners. And if they're not first-time listeners, there will be some consequences, potentially, if I have to repeat myself. So give yourself some grace, have some fun. So today, I talked to you guys about having a schedule, being responsive to email and phone calls, following the laws such as copyright, FERPA, HIPAA, keeping high expectations for yourself and for your students, getting ahead if you can, having balance, and having grace. Hopefully this information is helpful, whether you're an educator or not. And I'm still probably going to keep, because I've been doing about 2 podcasts a month now. And if I have some more time, I may do some extra episodes, but we'll see. And thanks for listening. And you can follow me on Twitter at Educator Barnes and on Instagram at Educator Barnes, or you can hop over to my website, educatorbarnes.com. And if you're on social media, hashtag that Brazen Education. Talk to you later.